Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the RESSummit 2026. I have a very eminent panel today, represented from Germany and Australia. We have two very important guests from Australia, His Excellency Jack Miller, Department of Home Affairs, Australian High Commission. And then to his left is Mariana McGlasson from the Deakin University. And then to her left, we have Mr. Andre from Dresden University, Germany. Welcome, gentlemen, ma'am. Great to have you all. And this is the Parisamvad, which is coming live to you from the Greater Noida campus of ICARS, which is the host for the RESSummit 2026. As I open this discussion, my question to my three guests is a very simple one. And as complex as it could get, as simple as it appears to be. The question is that while all of us seem to have done very well on our response segment, having learned lessons dealing with disasters, climate change adaptation, and the associated issues, are we building enough resilience at the community level? Is it going down to the people who matter? And I would like your international experience and perspective on this. Your Excellency, your turn first.
Well, thank you very much for the question. From response to resilience, I think response is in the moment. That's the what I view with that word or that term. So response is just the last part of an incident. What resilience is being proactive before a natural disaster or an event even occurs. Response is once it occurs. So from response to resilient, what needs to change? I think we need to be more proactive rather than reactive for all hazards, natural disasters and events. And by doing that, we make our response much more successful when it has to happen at the response stage.
I also really appreciate the question. When I think about, so we have a global system, global, national, regional systems, protocols, reconvenings every year led by global structures. Those discussions, those discourses, those protocols and plans and promises to do better are really fundamentally important because they send a signal globally to people at the local community level about what they can expect from their governments and from the world even as they recover from different incidents. Is that trickling down to the local community level? I have 2 points on that. Number one, they don't need it to trickle down. The story of our survival as a human species is that when crisis happens, we as human beings connect with our communities and we find a way forward. And I think India is a great example of that. What I've really appreciated in India is this the concept of communities helping communities, of local people standing up in times of crisis, whether it's a flood or a cyclone or other natural disaster, and working with each other in the community to build back better and to get through that incident. But to Jack's point, resilience, and I would maybe add to Jack's point, resilience is everything we do in a world where we should expect more and more climate-related and other disaster-related events. We need to teach each other and communities that we should live in a state of preparation for the next event. And as we build that resilience and as we rely on each other to be preparing for the next event, we will respond better and also bounce back quicker. I would say that resilience is not just the lead up before, but it's how people recover after the incident. So let's think of an earthquake. You've got the sort of initial event, you've got the first 72 hours, you've got maybe 30 to 60 or 90 days of clearing rubble and rebuilding infrastructure. But there is the psychological impact and the impact on the community of having survived that event, of not only rebuilding the infrastructure, but rebuilding the fabric of the community that will help them respond better to the next event.
Yeah, also thanks from my side for the question, and I might actually take the points up. Speaking of this recovery potential in the resilience term or definition, yeah, you can partially recover, you can completely recover, and you can come out even better. this is an option to be a little bit optimistic in nowadays world. And stepping back to university perspective now from Dresden University of Technology, we are actually the first university in Germany to implement a department of university culture. We now have a vice rector for university culture. And this includes, besides like equality, of course, and in the workplace and all these things, but also international responsibility and local action. So besides, obviously, I'm here representing our international efforts and partnerships, but we also work a lot locally, for example, with schools and with the communities in Dresden and the surroundings. And to combine these things and also bring the experiences from both worlds, so to say, together is tremendously helpful. Myself being an ecologist and also working with resilience in my past in from different perspectives, what often helps, resilience often has a positive connotation. Resilience is something good, but be aware, obstacles can be very resilient. Adversaries can be very resilient. Personal remark, not speaking of for the university right now, German automotive industry, very resilient in keeping with combustion engines. If this is good, I will keep the discussion out here. But coming back also to the question for like the resilience of local people. Yesterday there was a session on financing adaptation and how to find funds and fund adaptation measures. Maybe you have heard there was a big flood in the Western Germany in the River Ahr some years ago. The costs are approximately 30 billion euro just for this one extreme weather event and the consequences and the catastrophes. Luckily, Germany, with its economy, was able to pay for this, compensate the people, the families, help to rebuild. It's still going on. So we are, and that's a good thing that we are still capable economically to do so. But why it remains so hard to invest 1 million euro in a project aiming for preventing or mitigate these things in the future? That's really contradictory because we have the economic potential, we're moving, but not fast enough. Maybe I stop here.
Thank you, all of you, for the international perspectives that you brought in. What Mr. Andre brought out as to, there being international systems and cooperations in place, but at the end, it is the localization that brings the effect out. You spoke about the local communities. And also the aspect that why are we so reluctant to invest a certain sum of money which could save us huge costs coming up in future. But that's also the question that Asian communities, African communities deal with in a big way. There aren't enough funds for normal sustenance. And then we also speak about deploying them for future risks. Which is a challenge in itself. This is where I guess the way that India has progressed and adapted disaster risk reduction, it's been about how do we minimize the risks that are existing and also de-risk the future. So in that, my next question would be to all three of you, especially to His Excellency, that Australia being a valued partner for India, how do you think that international systems, global systems of resilience, of risk reduction, be localized and adapted for India, and how could Australia and Germany come on this field? Sir.
Well, thank you very much again for the question. I think I can speak with some authority on this particular topic in an Australian context because we have a fabulous volunteer-based, community-led volunteers in both the State Emergency Service and the Rural Fire Brigade. In every state and territory across Australia, there's a volunteer base of ordinary citizens like you and me and everyone watching on the screen today who can volunteer their time after their work has ended each day, and they can go and get training and equipment and uniforms, and there's a whole structure that's already pre-prepared for them to be incorporated into to be responsive during disasters. And so the two most common one are the Rural Fire Brigade and the State Emergency Service. And they have close to 100,000 volunteers, often in each state and territory. Sometimes you can't go to an emergency. You might have some family emergency or some other thing happening in your life, and that's acceptable. But it's this volunteer base. It's people led at the very grassroots level, and I think that's what India has in spades. You have community groups everywhere at the local level that are already well connected, that have that are intimately connected with the local environment and the infrastructure there. They're already ready, and so to talk to your point. About funding, you actually don't need that much funding to get that kind of grassroots level to be quite an effective workforce or volunteer force in an emergency. As some context, the Black Summer bushfires, which happened in 2020 in Australia, which devastated large parts of Australia, about 75% of the entire response force for that was volunteers from the Rural Fire Service and the State Emergency Service. So that just goes to show how powerful that those people can be. And I think you don't actually need that much funding to get that off the ground. So that's what I would encourage India to work towards.
There was a part of your question that also relates to the potential for regional cooperation between countries like Australia and India. And I don't work for the Australian government, but I think I can say that those of us who work in civil society, in academic institutions, universities, nonprofits, volunteer organizations, I think there's a tremendous affinity between the people of India and the people of Australia. So part of our project and our cooperation with IIT Roorkee is to actually build some of those linkages between Australia disaster responders and academics and Indian responders and academics. To amplify thought leadership, to provide mutual exchange and learning. I hope at some stage we'll even be able to have exchange of sort of site visits between the two countries for mutual learning. I think there is so much capability in both countries, and there are learnings in both countries. I mean, as someone who is now an Australian citizen and plans to stay in Australia forever, sorry, you're stuck with me forever. Australia has a unique set of disaster risks and convergences, but nothing like the scale that India has to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And the civil servants in India, I would argue, are among the most experienced in the world. So this is not an exchange of only Australians coming to India and saying, hey, we've got a few things to tell you. This is truly in the spirit of mutual cooperation and learning from these leaders on the ground. And I think there's something really powerful there. In the same way, across India, you have a lot of different regions here. What works up in the sort of northern mountain regions and what works in the coastal regions are very different crises and disasters. But if we can create leadership programs where we bring these people together and they can exchange learning, you start to build that camaraderie of experience and learning between different communities and abroad.
Yeah. I'm not qualified to speak about Australia in any way. I've never been there, unfortunately. But I still find a connection, though. So Dresden, like a lot of European universities, they are part of European university alliances, really to really help the partnerships among universities, that they come up together with projects, new degree programs, because together normally you are better, you are more resilient as well. And all these European university alliances, they have global partners also beyond Europe. And with our global partners in our university alliance, which is called Utopia, so besides our partners in Spain, for example, in Europe, we have partners in the US with the Arizona State University. We have partners, good to know, with Stellenbosch University in South Africa and Monash University, then also in Australia. And these partnerships show how universities can work together also on these challenges we talked about. And then coming back to Dresden, especially, we are lucky that we have one institute of the United Nations University on site. By the way, Germany is the only country with 2 institutes of the United Nations University, one in Bonn and one in Dresden. And this opens really new pathways also on the interaction of academia on the global level. So what we do is we encourage our scientists and also our student community to be active at the UN level. So we enable them to go to the conferences, not only the COPs, they are very expensive, you know that probably, but to the preparatory events, and to be involved in these processes that you really know, okay, I study this, but this has a wider meaning. It's not just my degree and I find a job, but to bring some sense into this. And this really helps also to foster new partnerships. And I talked yesterday briefly, our chancellor was here visiting Prime Minister Modi, so the bond between India and Germany is strong and will hopefully even grow stronger. But also, we are also a federal system in Germany. Federal state of Saxony just opened a Saxon Science Liaison Office in India, in Chennai, because our partnerships with IIT Madras there. So there is a lot going on, and I'm really looking positively to end also again on a positive note that these partnerships really not only help the academic institutions to become better, but like how effective they are within their respective communities.
It's actually very amazing to know that, you know, federal state of Germany, Saxony is opened in Chennai. Chennai is my hometown. Feels so good. That's one. And talking about Professor McGlasson, thank you for bringing out the cooperation aspect that you said with IIT Roorkee. Picking your head further on that, my question to you would be, how do you see the pathway ahead, especially with us, the host of the summit, ICARS? Do you see a collaboration that can be mutually beneficial to both Australian education system and the Indian system, and how we could empower youth to be real warriors of this response resilience issue that we are looking at?
That's a great question. I think all great partnerships start with friendship and respect. My respect for the work of ICARS and IIT Roorkee, and indeed all of Indian academia and all of Indian disaster response, is authentic and genuine. Having worked in 30, 40, 50 countries around the world, I've watched closely how disaster response is managed in all of those countries. And there's something really important that's happened in India over the last 20 to 30 years. In the maturing of the disaster response agencies and the disaster response policies and the forward-thinking nature of that in a country that has the convergence of not only a large population, but some areas that are more fragile than others and some areas that are among the most disaster-affected regions of the world. I believe there is great learning that can happen for all regions of the world if we can understand that process in India, what's worked, and the immense progress that's been made. So the partnership we're proposing with IIT Roorkee is, again, starting with respect, admiration, and friendship. And when we build that bond together, we can say, what are you good at? What can we bring to the table? And how can this be a mutually beneficial effort? I have an interest in seeing different versions of leadership rising up from every region of the world. I have a broad view of how we can connect places like India and South Africa and Kenya and Ghana and all the way over in South America for learning between those countries. And I think India can play a really big role in that on the global stage. So this idea of my center, Center for Humanitarian Leadership, coming and offering our global expertise in crisis and humanitarian leadership to local responders primarily, along with IIT Roorkee's immense capability and presence and respect here in India. I think there's something really amazing that can happen when we bring all of that together. And again, this idea of amplifying Indian thought leadership, not just in India, but so that others around the world can look to India as a really great case study. I don't know another country that has all of the different climate regions and all of the different disaster convergences. And the expertise that's been developed here over the decades is something truly remarkable. And I'm excited to see where it goes.
Thank you, Professor McGlasson. My question to Dr. Andre now, on similar lines, how do you see Dresden University collaborating with ICARS, IIT Roorkee, or any other institution in the country, in India? And do you see a potential there? And do you see how you could shape the youth in the coming years?
Yeah. I see potential, sure, but I already see evidence that this works. And coming back also to relations and also friendships. Quick story, how the contact to ICARS and Professor Gupta came into place. There is a member of his team, Richa, and she's an alumna of a professional further educational program, which is in Dresden. And it's there since almost 50 years. And it's aimed for environmental managers from the global south who are already in the job, and to further educate them and, more importantly, network with others in the same role in all countries over the world. With this, I learned ICARS was created. Then I invited Professor Gupta to a conference in Dresden, and he re-invited me back here. And we are already in the planning together with ICARS and the ABCD Center, the Global Water and Climate Adaptation Center we created, to have a joint summer school. And this will be the start for thinking about more joint projects, attract funding, third-party funding especially. And what better place is ICARS as the center of climate change knowledge, or at least to be. I know it's a long and difficult process, but we are happy to support this from our side. So yes, with this example, I could go on with IIT Madras in Chennai, where there's a whole lot of cooperation. Just one, we are in the process of developing a trans-campus with IIT Madras in Chennai, meaning a structured, coordinated exchange of lecturers, of students in the start, then aiming for joint projects and create further joint degree programs as well, beyond our first one, but we are very proud of our joint master program on water security and global change.
This is at IIT Madras?
It's a joint master of 3 universities, so you get a degree from 3 universities, from IIT Madras, from TU Dresden, and from RWTH Aachen in Germany as well, and associated in the program as well as the AIT in Bangkok, Asian Institute of Technology, and the United Nations University as well.
Thank you, Dr. Andre. This just sounds exciting, and I'm sure we also are looking forward to Deakin University's, a consolidated bouquet of courses and partnerships that they're going to offer us in the times to come. And my question now is to Your Excellency. There's a lot of student communities, that goes to Australia for education year on year. And Australia is one of the favorite destinations for Indian students for further studies. How has your education system there mainstreamed DRR, disaster risk response, for these students who come from India and other countries into Australia? If you could share some thoughts on that, please.
Sure. Well, we welcome Indian students with open arms. They are an enormous part of the Australian community now. They're even beyond that. Now our diaspora of Indians in Australia is close to 1 million. For a small country like Australia of only 27 million, that's sizable. And the student population is going from strength to strength, and we're really looking forward to it continuing to grow. And Deakin University and others are supporting that in a real way. We are very hopeful too that with these new projects coming online, that Indian students continue to choose whatever degree they would like to study in. We see lots of engineering, we see lots of business, etc. But in the disaster management or response, kind of that field is largely still untapped. And so I'd say to anyone who's watching today that that's a field to look into as a growth opportunity, and something where you can come to Australia and potentially come back with that knowledge and improve India. Not that it needs any improving, but you can help grow, right? And the strength of the India-Australian relationship continues to grow from strength to strength, and I look forward to many more students coming to Australia.
Thank you, Excellency. My question is to Dr. Andre. I start with you. I reverse the order now. My question is, what has been your impression of the RESSummit? It's been over a day and a half now. The deliberations that have gone on, what have you pegged, and what is it that you liked, and what is it that you would like to see better maybe in the next edition of RESSummit? If there could be something that we could include, we would benefit from your perspective, please.
Thank you for the question. Actually, it's already my second time for the RESSummit. There was a smaller iteration some time ago where I was participating online. So being here on site in the campus, it's already an improvement, like from my personal side. What I really like is the engagement of like the different stakeholders. Obviously, we all know the importance of that. We all know how difficult it is, and what we have to take care of. And I think this is maybe an advice, if not already taken into account, to have like a structured follow-up. out of such meetings. As already mentioned, or also at the plenary in the morning, if there is like a policy brief after that, something tangible where we can continue to work and prepare for the next thing step by step. So this is something I would really emphasize. And then another personal note, next time maybe on the main campus on IIT Roorkee, because I've never been there and I would really love to get to know it as well. I see pictures from colleagues who've been there, so maybe that's another thing.
Difficult request to meet because we looking to showcase ICARs more and more. Maybe a day's visit to IIT Roorkee could be in order.
Yeah, I got
But
that.
the summit will be here. May I get Professor McLaughlin's opinion?
Thank you. So I am one day late. I arrived late last night from Australia, so this is my first day at the summit, but I've been watching closely the development over the last few weeks and the intentionality of bringing together academics, practitioners, policymakers, government leaders, local leaders, civil society. That's my kind of conference. Too often, we see those different groups of people meeting in their own conferences, and the linkage between them is often not made. Conferences, especially in-person conferences, to your point, it's an opportunity to go beyond the two-dimensional. I can read your papers, I can meet you online, but being able to meet and have a conversation in person transforms that relationship into something that has, I think, much more potential between human beings to solve problems. So holding the event in person and bringing together people from all of those different spheres, creating real opportunity for people to connect and discuss, and then thinking together. Your point about momentum is extremely important. We can put a lot of energy into a great event, but if we don't find energy to do the follow-up between sort of annual events to keep the conversations moving forward, then we lose that momentum year on year. So I think this idea of having a policy output in addition to the magical things that happen during the 3-day summit is a really great point. But thank you again for the invitation.
Thank you, Professor. May I know your opinion?
Sure, and I don't have anything you could improve, but just one thing that I'd say that I'm impressed with was upstairs, I was talking to a range of different government officials and NGO workers, and the depth of the regional geographic knowledge was so strong. Australia has some resilience in some areas, but we have almost no experience in others. And upstairs, I learnt about glacial retreat, something that Australia has none. I've learnt about mountain slump and landslides, and a whole host of different topics that I don't and Australia could learn from. So India's strength, I think, and this summit's strength is that you have such a diverse country with so much beautiful area. You've got droughts, not droughts, you've got desert with droughts, you've got rainforest with floods, you've got mountains with snowstorms, you've got everything. There's a lot that we can learn from you, and India's here, and I was very impressed just hearing it today.
Thank you. This goes to Professor Anil Gupta, the conference secretary. Dr. Andre is looking for IIT Roorkee visit, so please plan one for tomorrow, at least. And then thank you really, all of you, for your perspectives. And as one thing emerges as we come to a close of this discussion, is that it's important to take forward whatever other learnings from here and translate that into a tangible action, so that there is connectivity between two summits and there is progress between two summits. And eventually, all the knowledge sharing that happens here translates into something worthwhile and benefits the community at the end of the chain. With those thoughts, I close this edition of Parisamvad. And on behalf of ICARS and IIT Roorkee, I thank Professor McLaughlin, Dr. Andre, and His Excellency Jack Miller, Department of Home Affairs. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful interacting.
Yeah.
Thank you.